Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we have a truly transformative book to explore, Atomic Habits by James Clear. In this powerful guide, Clear isn't just challenging the way you think about progress, he's revolutionizing it. Atomic Habits sheds light on how tiny, almost invisible changes can result in massive life-altering outcomes. The core idea? You don't need to make drastic changes to achieve extraordinary results. It's the small, everyday improvements that matter. Clear offers practical strategies and personalized tools to help us form good habits, break the bad ones, and master the minuscule behaviors that lead to remarkable results. This book is a must-read for anyone looking to make a significant change in their life. Drawing from scientific research, Atomic Habits takes us on a journey of self-discovery and growth, helping us understand that our habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So if you're ready to transform your habits and achieve your full potential, stay tuned as we delve into James Clear's enlightening book Atomic Habits. Whether you're looking to improve your health, productivity, or even your relationships, this book has insights for everyone. Let's dive in and uncover the power of tiny changes. Chapter 1. The Surprising Power of Tiny Habits. It introduces the central thesis of the book. Small, consistent changes in our habits can lead to significant results over time. This concept relies on the compounding effect of habits, which Clear refers to as the power of atomic habits. The chapter opens with a story about the British cycling team, which had been underperforming for nearly a century, but began to see dramatic improvements when they hired a new performance director. The director implemented a strategy of marginal gains, or the 1% rule, focusing on tiny improvements in every aspect of cycling. The cumulative impact of these small changes was astonishing. The British cycling team won numerous Olympic gold medals and several Tour de France championships in the following decade. Clear uses this story to highlight the transformative power of tiny habits, which he refers to as atomic because, much like atoms in the physical world, they are the building blocks of larger systems, in this case, our daily routines and overall lifestyles. Even though one small habit seems trivial in isolation, the aggregation and compounding of many small habits can lead to substantial outcomes. The idea behind the term atomic is twofold. Firstly, as mentioned, it's an analogy to the atomic theory in which a large entity can be broken down into its smallest components. Secondly, atomic in terms of power, indicating how a tiny particle can unleash enormous energy, reflecting the potential for transformation inherent in minute behavioral shifts. James Clear also introduces the idea of the habit loop, a concept borrowed from Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit. The loop consists of a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. Understanding this loop is essential to implementing new habits and replacing undesirable ones. Clear points out that people often focus on setting goals, but the real power lies in systems, the processes that lead us to the results. Changing our habits changes our systems, and thus changes our life. He also introduces a counterintuitive idea that it's more effective to focus on getting 1% better each day rather than striving for a significant breakthrough. This continuous improvement, or kaizen, as the Japanese call it, is more sustainable and less intimidating than trying to make a massive change all at once. The chapter concludes with Clear affirming that the aim of the book is to provide practical strategies for forming good habits, breaking bad ones, and mastering the tiny behaviors that lead to remarkable results. This chapter sets the tone for the rest of the book, where Clear delves into how to actually apply these concepts to everyday life. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. Chapter 2 delves deep into the psychological underpinnings of habits, arguing that they are closely connected to our sense of identity. James Clear suggests that our habits are driven not just by what we want to achieve, but also by who we want to become. Our habits are fundamentally linked to our identities and influence our perceptions of ourselves. Clear starts by defining identity-based habits. These are habits that are derived from our identities or self-images. For example, someone who identifies as a reader will habitually read books, while someone who identifies as a healthy person will habitually eat healthily and exercise. In each case, the habit arises from the individual's sense of who they are. The chapter then explores the concept of the two-step process of habit change, the first step being who you want to become and the second step being proving it to yourself with small wins. Clear emphasizes that in order to achieve habit change, it's more effective to focus on who you want to be, your desired identity, rather than what you want to achieve, your goals. Clear explains that this is due to the fact that each action you perform is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. No single act will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is a gradual evolution, rather than a sudden transformation. Your habits are how you embody your identity. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. The chapter also discusses the idea of identity conflict, suggesting that it can be challenging to change your habits if your new behaviors are at odds with your self-perception. Clear argues that lasting change comes from updating our self-image to align with our goals. This, in turn, requires conscious effort and introspection, as we must identify any false or limiting beliefs we hold about ourselves and actively work to modify them. In conclusion, Clear posits that to create better habits, the key isn't to change what you do, but to change who you are. The chapter ends by urging readers to decide the type of person they want to be and to start taking small steps to reinforce their desired identity. Chapter 3. How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. This chapter focuses on identifying the 4 steps of habit formation, based on the concept of the habit loop, a psychological pattern that governs any habit. These 4 steps are the cue, craving, response, and reward, which constitute the 4 laws of behavior change. Clear further elaborates on how we can manipulate these laws to foster the creation of new habits or break unhealthy ones. 1. Cue. The cue initiates the habit loop. It is a trigger to your brain to start a behavior, often tied to location, time, emotional state, other people, or the preceding action. For example, a notification on your phone, cue, might prompt you to check your messages habit. If you want to establish a new habit, Clear suggests leveraging cues by making them obvious and consistent. For example, if you want to take up running in the morning, lay out your running shoes and gear the night before, so it's the first thing you see in the morning. This makes the cue noticeable and increases the likelihood you'll follow through with the habit. 2. Craving. The craving is what motivates you to perform the habit. It's the anticipation of the reward or outcome. The craving doesn't necessarily refer to a craving for the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. For example, when you're feeling stressed, cue, you might crave the calm that a deep breathing exercise provides habit. To create a craving, Clear suggests making the habit attractive. For instance, pairing a habit you want to build with something you already enjoy can make it more appealing. This strategy is often referred to as temptation bundling. 3. Response. The response is the actual execution of the habit, be it an action or a thought. The frequency of the response can depend on how easy it is to perform. Clear suggests making the response easy by reducing friction. For instance, if you want to exercise regularly, joining a gym that's on your commute could reduce the friction associated with travel, making it easier for you to follow through. 4. Reward. The reward is the benefit gained from doing the habit. It satisfies the craving and, importantly, reinforces the habit, making it more likely to occur again. To increase the chances of habit formation, Clear suggests making the reward satisfying. The brain releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical, not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. By adding a positive reward, you'll feel good about your new habit, and this satisfaction can help to solidify the habit. All 4 steps, cue, craving, response, reward, work together to create a feedback loop. This loop helps the brain determine if a habit is worth repeating, with the ultimate goal of automating the behavior. By understanding these steps and learning to manipulate them to your advantage, you can create healthier and more productive habits while eliminating detrimental ones. Keep in mind, this model isn't just for creating habits. It can also be used in reverse to break bad habits. For example, to break a bad habit, you could make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. Chapter 4. The Man Who Didn't Look Right. If you find it difficult to evaluate a particular habit, pose this question to yourself. Does this action support the journey towards becoming the person I aspire to be? Does this habit endorse or contradict my ideal self-image? Given sufficient repetition, your brain will instinctively recognize the signals that forecast specific results, even without the need for deliberate thought. This chapter starts with a compelling story of a nurse named Elaine, who noticed something unusual about a patient. Despite the vital sign monitors indicating everything was normal, her intuition, driven by subtle cues, alerted her that something was amiss. Trusting her instinct, she alerted a doctor. Further examination revealed that the patient was experiencing internal bleeding, a life-threatening condition. This story illustrates our brain's ability to pick up subtle cues in the environment and trigger a habitual response. Clear uses this example to dive into the science of how our brain responds to cues in our environment. He explains that habits are largely cue-driven. Our brain is always scanning our surroundings, anticipating what will happen next. When it recognizes a cue associated with a past reward, it initiates a habit to obtain that reward. This process is automatic and operates below the level of conscious thought, which is why habits feel second nature. For instance, if you have developed a habit of checking your phone every time it buzzes, the buzz sound acts as a cue, triggering an automatic response. Picking up your phone to check the notification in anticipation of the reward, such as a message from a friend or an update on social media. Clear explains that due to this automatic response to cues, changing habits can be challenging. When we repeatedly act in the same environment, our actions become tied to the cues in that environment. This is why we might automatically reach for the remote upon sitting on the couch, or why we might feel an urge to snack when watching TV. Our brain has associated these environments with specific behaviors. The key to changing habits, according to Clear, is to recognize the cues that trigger them and deliberately manipulate these cues to serve our purposes. For example, if you want to curb your habit of watching too much TV, you might rearrange your living room so the TV is less of a focal point and reading materials are more accessible and visible. This chapter essentially shows how understanding and managing the cues in our environment can give us greater control over our habits, highlighting the importance of being aware of how our brain responds to the signals it receives from our surroundings. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit. James Clear introduces the concept of implementation intentions and describes the power of habit stacking as an effective way to create new habits. Clear begins by explaining that many people who fail to develop a new habit do so not because they lack motivation or information, but because they lack clarity. They don't specify when and where they'll act on their intentions. This observation is backed by research in psychology, which has shown that explicitly stating your intention to behave in a certain way at a certain time can dramatically increase the odds of that behavior occurring. These are called implementation intentions. For example, rather than saying, "I want to exercise," you might say, "I will exercise at 6 p.m. in my living room." The chapter then introduces the idea of habit stacking, an idea originally from B.J. Fogg's Tiny Habits program. The concept revolves around taking advantage of the natural way our brains link actions by pairing a new habit with an already established habit. By doing so, the existing habit acts as a cue for the new habit, increasing the likelihood that you'll do it. For example, if you already have a habit of drinking coffee in the morning and want to develop a habit of journaling, you could say, "After I make my morning coffee, I will journal for 5 minutes." Here, the habit of making coffee becomes the cue to start journaling. Clear emphasizes that for habit stacking to work, the cue must be a regular and consistent part of your routine. Moreover, the new habit you're trying to adopt needs to be something that can be completed quickly, so that it doesn't overwhelm the existing habit or routine. In this chapter, Clear is teaching the reader how to build a system for getting the best things done, one small habit at a time. By using implementation intentions and habit stacking, one can start a new habit in a way that's clear, providing a better chance of making the habit stick. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Clear discusses the influence of the environment on our behavior and argues that it often plays a more crucial role than motivation in shaping our habits. Clear begins the chapter by stating that while many people believe motivation is the key to forming new habits or breaking old ones, it's often our environment that has a much more substantial impact. He uses compelling examples to illustrate his point. For example, he describes an office setting where employees were eating too many candies from a jar located in the center of the room. Simply moving the jar out of sight drastically reduced the amount of candy consumed. The core idea Clear presents is that we often rely on willpower and self-control to form new habits or break bad ones, but these resources are limited and can easily be overpowered by environmental cues. It's more effective to design an environment that makes good habits easier and bad habits harder. To create an environment that is conducive to good habits, Clear suggests several strategies. First, he suggests making cues for good habits obvious in your environment. If you want to practice the guitar more often, place the guitar stand in the middle of your room. If you want to eat healthier, place fruits and vegetables at the front of your fridge. On the other hand, if you want to break a bad habit, reduce exposure to the cues that trigger it. If you want to watch less TV, keep the remote in a less accessible location or move the TV out of the bedroom. Clear also discusses the influence of the culture of the group we belong to on our behavior. When changing your habits isn't possible through cues, it might be beneficial to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. You're likely to adopt habits that are praised and approved by your peer group. Overall, in this chapter, Clear is emphasizing that instead of solely relying on motivation and self-control to change our habits, we should give more attention to adjusting our environment in a way that naturally promotes good habits and reduces bad ones. Environment design can be a powerful tool when it comes to habit change. Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control. James introduces the idea of choice architecture and the influence it has on our ability to maintain self-control and adhere to beneficial habits. Clear begins the chapter with the story of a study conducted on self-control in children, known as the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. In this study, children were given a marshmallow and told that if they could resist eating it for 15 minutes, they would receive a second marshmallow. Some children managed to resist, while others did not. The study found that the children who were able to delay gratification tended to have more successful outcomes later in life. However, Clear argues that the experiment's focus on individual self-control misses an essential factor: the environment in which the individual is operating. He presents evidence from follow-up studies that indicated when the environment was manipulated, such as by casting doubt on the reliability of the promise of a second marshmallow. Even children who previously exhibited self-control would often give in. This demonstrates that the ability to practice self-control is heavily influenced by the reliability and structure of our environment, an idea known as choice architecture. Choice architecture involves organizing the context in which people make decisions. We can manipulate our environment to make the cues of our good habits more obvious and the cues of our bad habits less visible. For example, if you want to consume less alcohol, you could make a habit of buying less alcohol, thereby making it less available in your environment. Clear also introduces the concept of commitment devices in this chapter. These are choices you make in the present that control your actions in the future. They can be powerful tools to lock in future behavior, reduce reliance on willpower, and increase chances of success. For example, scheduling a workout with a friend next week is a commitment device because it creates a social expectation for you to be at the workout, making it more likely that you'll follow through. In essence, Chapter 7 emphasizes that the secret to self-control is not just about willpower or grit, but also significantly about designing an environment that makes good habits easier and bad habits harder to do, thus making self-control a more natural choice. Chapter 8. How to make a habit irresistible. James delves into the second stage of the habit loop, craving. He explains how shaping our desires can influence our habits and increase the odds of sticking to beneficial routines. Clear explains that every behavior that becomes a habit satisfies a craving in some way, even if we're not consciously aware of it. Cravings are the motivational force behind habits. Therefore, by understanding and manipulating what we crave, we can control our habits. He then introduces the concept of dopamine-driven feedback loop. Dopamine is often called the desire chemical because it creates a sense of pleasure and reward in our brains. It plays a significant role in habit formation because it's released not just when we experience pleasure but also when we anticipate it. When we associate a specific action with pleasure, our brains release dopamine, which makes us crave the action. This process reinforces the habit loop, making us more likely to repeat the behavior. To apply this concept to habit formation, Clear suggests a strategy called temptation bundling, where you link an action you need to do with an action you want to do. The idea is to make your habits attractive so that you're more likely to do them. For instance, if you want to build a habit of exercising but enjoy watching your favorite TV show, you can bundle the two activities together. You only watch your favorite show while exercising. The pleasure of watching the show makes the exercise more enjoyable, increasing the likelihood you'll keep doing it. Clear also talks about the influence of culture and community on our cravings. We're more likely to desire what people around us validate and less likely to desire what they don't. If a habit is widely accepted and recognized in our community, we're more likely to stick to it. In essence, Chapter 8 demonstrates the power of manipulating our desires and environment to make good habits seem appealing, thereby increasing our chances of sticking to them. By understanding how cravings work and using strategies like temptation bundling, we can create a system where good habits are not only easier to start, but also more satisfying to stick with. Chapter 9. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. He discusses the powerful impact of the people around us on our behavior and the formation of our habits. Clear asserts that our habits are not just shaped by our personal thoughts and experiences, but also heavily influenced by the social and cultural environment we're part of. We tend to adopt the habits and behaviors of the people we respect, admire, or spend the most time with. Our desire for belonging and approval, and our tendency to imitate the habits of successful people around us, play a significant role in the habits we form. He illustrates this concept with the example of the mimicry phenomenon, where people unconsciously imitate the behaviors of others in their social group. For instance, if your friends have a habit of going for a run every morning, you are likely to pick up the same habit. In this chapter, Clear also introduces the idea of normal behavior, a concept that suggests what we view as a typical behavior largely depends on the people around us. If a behavior is normal in your culture or social group, you're more likely to see it as acceptable and adopt it. He also highlights that the closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to imitate their habits. Hence, family and close friends have a significant impact on our behaviors. We're likely to eat what our families eat, talk how our friends talk, and even think how our surrounding community thinks. However, Clear suggests that while it's harder to build habits that are not the cultural norm, it's not impossible. With enough repetition, a new behavior can become associated with a new tribe and a new identity. He advises finding a group where your desired behavior is their normal behavior. To sum up, Chapter 9 elucidates how our social environment, particularly our family and friends, can dramatically shape our habits. We're driven by our desire to fit in and belong, making us likely to adopt the behaviors of those around us. Recognizing this fact allows us to leverage social influence to facilitate the development of desirable habits. Chapter 10. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. James offers strategies on how to identify and address the root cause of our harmful habits. Clear begins by emphasizing the importance of understanding the cue for a habit, the trigger that initiates the behavior. He explains that the cues triggering our habits are often so deeply ingrained that we perform a habit without conscious thought, making it difficult to identify and change them. To help identify these cues, Clear introduces the 5 whys technique. This approach involves asking why 5 times to dig deeper into the root cause of a problem. For example, if you're consistently late to work, instead of blaming traffic, you could ask why you left late, then why you didn't wake up on time, and so on, until you get to the root cause. This method encourages introspection and identification of the real reasons behind our habits, rather than focusing on surface-level symptoms. Once you've identified the cues, Clear advises on pointing and calling technique as a way to raise awareness of these unconscious behaviors. This method involves pointing to and saying out loud the action you're about to perform. For instance, if you're trying to break the habit of mindless snacking, you might say out loud, "I'm opening the fridge." This technique brings the unconscious behavior into consciousness, allowing you to be more mindful about your actions and make a deliberate choice. Clear also discusses the importance of replacing a bad habit with a good one. Merely avoiding a bad habit leaves a void that can make it difficult to break the habit cycle. Instead, replacing the habit with a new, healthier behavior can help fill that void and make it easier to change. Finally, Clear suggests redesigning your environment to remove the cues that trigger your bad habits. By making these cues less obvious, you make it harder to engage in the undesirable behavior, thereby supporting the change you want to make. In this chapter, he provides valuable insights and practical techniques for identifying and addressing the root causes of our harmful habits. Clear emphasizes the importance of awareness, substitution of bad habits with good ones, and environmental design in the process of habit change. Chapter 11. Walk slowly, but never backward. James discusses the importance of consistency and perseverance in habit formation, emphasizing the idea of making a little progress each day, no matter how small. Clear starts this chapter with the story of Ann Schreiber, who started with a small investment and kept consistently investing for many years, eventually accumulating a substantial wealth. This story illustrates the idea of how the effects of small actions can compound over time to produce significant outcomes. Clear explains the concept of the plateau of latent potential, where people don't realize the progress they're making because the results are not immediately visible. He uses the example of ice melting. Even when it's heated from -10 degrees to -1 degree, nothing seems to happen. But once it reaches 0 degrees, the ice starts to melt. This is the point where the work you've done starts to show noticeable results. This concept is important because many people give up when they don't see immediate results. They think they're not making progress and get discouraged. Clear stresses that it's crucial to remember that progress can be slow and isn't always linear. Even if you can't see the results, it doesn't mean you're not moving forward. Clear suggests that to keep progressing, it's important to focus on your systems rather than goals. Instead of obsessing over a particular outcome, concentrate on the process. By focusing on the system, you're more likely to make continuous incremental improvements, and the results will follow. In this chapter, he underscores the importance of consistency, patience, and the power of small incremental changes. Progress might seem slow, but as long as we're moving forward, even if it's slowly, we're making progress. And over time, these small steps can compound into remarkable results. Chapter 12. The Law of Least Effort. Clear focuses on the principle of making habits easy to follow to ensure their sustainability and success over the long term. Clear argues that humans naturally follow the law of least effort, meaning we gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. This principle is rooted in our desire to conserve energy. From an evolutionary perspective, conserving energy has been essential for our survival, which is why our brains have been wired to follow this path. He applies this principle to habit formation, stating that if we make a habit easy to do, we're more likely to do it consistently. He suggests reducing friction associated with good habits. The less energy a habit requires, the more likely it is to be performed. For instance, if you want to make a habit of exercising, having your workout clothes ready the night before can decrease the friction and make it easier to start. On the other hand, increasing friction for bad habits can make them harder to perform and thus help in breaking them. Clear also introduces the concept of priming the environment, meaning preparing your environment in advance to make future actions easier. For instance, setting out your workout clothes the night before is priming the environment for your morning workout. Furthermore, he suggests using technology and automation to make habits easier to perform. By automating your habits, you can let technology do the work for you. For example, setting up automatic transfers to your savings account can help you save money more easily and consistently. In this chapter, he emphasizes the power of simplicity and convenience in habit formation. By reducing friction for good habits and increasing it for bad ones, and by priming our environment, we can make habit performance easier, which increases the likelihood of these habits sticking. The easier a habit is, the more likely it is to become ingrained. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Clear presents a practical strategy for overcoming procrastination and making the initiation of new habits easier. The central concept of this chapter is the 2-minute rule, which Clear has introduced earlier, but here elaborates in greater detail. This rule posits that any new habit should be easy enough to be completed in 2 minutes or less. The aim isn't to accomplish the end goal in 2 minutes, but to make the starting process of any task as easy as possible. Clear explains that the most difficult part of any task is starting it. Once you begin, it's much easier to continue. The 2-minute rule simplifies the starting process, making it easier to overcome the initial inertia and procrastination. For instance, if your ultimate goal is to read more books, you can start with the 2-minute habit of read 1 page. If you want to run a marathon, start with the 2-minute habit of put on your running shoes. The idea is to scale down the entire habit into a very small, easily doable first step. While the 2-minute rule might seem too simple to be effective, Clear underscores that the point is not to complete the whole task in 2 minutes, but to create a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. By starting with a task that takes 2 minutes or less, you can make it easier to transition into a larger, more complex task. He also suggests applying the 2-minute rule to your existing habits by creating a 2-minute pre-habit attached to an existing habit. This strategy can help you build more complex habits by stacking new habits onto existing ones. In this, Chapter D offers a practical strategy to overcome procrastination and make habit initiation easier. By scaling down the habits into small, manageable tasks, the 2-minute rule aids in breaking through the initial resistance and fostering habit formation and consistency. Chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Clear delves into the concept of using commitment devices and contract-like agreements to help solidify good habits and eliminate undesirable ones. Clear begins the chapter by explaining what a commitment device is, essentially a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. It's a way of locking in future behavior, bypassing any possible fluctuations in motivation or self-control. He cites examples such as Odysseus tying himself to his ship's mast to avoid the siren's song, or Victor Hugo locking away his clothes to focus on writing. Applying this concept to habit formation, Clear suggests that you can create commitment devices to make it easier to follow through on good habits and more difficult to engage in bad ones. For instance, if you want to exercise more, you could sign up for a fitness class and pay in advance. This creates a scenario where you're more likely to follow through with your exercise habit, because not doing so would mean wasting money. Clear also discusses the concept of a Ulysses Pact, named after the aforementioned Odysseus, also known as Ulysses, a type of commitment device where you willingly make it difficult or impossible to go back on your commitment. An example of a Ulysses Pact might be deleting all the gaming apps from your phone to focus on studying. It's a way of proactively preventing yourself from giving in to future temptations. Further, Clear proposes using technology to automate good habits and eliminate the chance for mistake. This could include setting up automatic deposits into a savings account or setting reminders for important tasks. By removing the need for decision-making or willpower, you're more likely to maintain your habits. In this chapter, he explores strategies to lock in future behavior, making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Through the use of commitment devices, Ulysses Pacts, and technology, Clear provides ways to enhance habit formation and consistency, bypassing the need for constant motivation or willpower. Chapter 15. The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. Clear discusses the importance of immediate gratification in habit formation and adherence. Clear suggests that human behavior is strongly driven by the desire for immediate reward, and we're more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. Clear begins the chapter by explaining how delayed gratification can be a barrier to habit formation. While the benefits of habits like exercising, eating healthy, or saving money are well understood, the benefits are often delayed, while the effort or sacrifice is immediate. This can make such habits difficult to establish and maintain. To address this, Clear introduces what he calls the cardinal rule of behavior change, which states that what is immediately rewarded is repeated, and what is immediately punished is avoided. He suggests leveraging this rule by adding an immediate reward to the habits that are beneficial in the long run, making them more enjoyable and satisfying. Clear also suggests pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do, a technique he calls temptation bundling. This strategy can make the process of building beneficial habits more attractive. For instance, if you enjoy watching a specific TV show, allow yourself to watch it only while you're exercising. In this chapter, he discusses the significance of immediate gratification in habit formation and the strategies to incorporate immediate rewards into your habit-forming process. By making good habits satisfying in the moment, you're more likely to repeat them and incorporate them into your daily routine. Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits every day. Clear outlines strategies for maintaining consistency in habit formation, focusing on the practical application of habit tracking and habit stacking techniques. Clear starts the chapter emphasizing the importance of consistency in habit formation. The key to building lasting habits is repeating the behavior daily or as often as necessary. A habit must be established before it can be improved. This is where the importance of tracking comes into play. He reintroduces the concept of habit tracking, a technique where you record each time you perform a habit. The simple act of tracking habits can offer a clear visual cue of your progress and consistency. This can be as simple as crossing off a day on a calendar or using an app. The immediate satisfaction of marking progress provides instant feedback, making the habit satisfying and promoting its continuation. However, Clear again warns against becoming overly fixated on maintaining a perfect streak. The goal isn't to never miss a day, but rather to not miss twice. Missing one workout or one meditation session won't make a huge difference, but consistently missing habits can derail your progress. The don't break the chain approach can motivate, but it's important to not let a single slip become a total backslide. Next, Clear explores habit stacking, a technique he previously introduced, where you pair a new habit with an existing one. Here, he extends this concept to create habit chains, linking multiple habits together to form routines. This method is effective because the existing habits serve as cues for the new habit, thereby reducing the reliance on willpower or memory to perform the new habit. For instance, you could create a morning routine where after waking up existing habit, you meditate for 5 minutes new habit. Then, make a cup of coffee existing habit, followed by reading a book for 10 minutes new habit. In conclusion, Chapter 16 emphasizes consistency as a key factor in successful habit formation. Through habit tracking and habit stacking techniques, Clear provides practical solutions that help make habits automatic and regular parts of your day, thus increasing the likelihood of their adherence and long-term success. Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. Clear discusses the power of social accountability in habit formation and its effectiveness in ensuring adherence to new behaviors. Clear begins by outlining the impact of social environments and expectations on our behavior. He argues that we tend to adjust our behaviors based on what we believe people around us expect. This highlights the inherent need for social approval and the avoidance of disapproval, a powerful force that can be leveraged in forming new habits. To harness this power, Clear introduces the concept of an accountability partner. This is a person who keeps you accountable for your habits. They know about your goals and regularly check in on your progress. The fear of letting someone else down can be a powerful motivator to stick to your habits. For example, if you want to start running regularly, having a running partner who expects you to show up at a certain time can greatly increase your chances of sticking with the habit. This is because you're not just running for your benefit now. Someone else is counting on you. Clear suggests that being a part of a group where the desired behavior is the norm can also enhance habit formation. If everyone around you is performing a particular habit, you're more likely to adopt that habit yourself. This concept reflects the saying, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Additionally, he mentions that public declaration of your goals can create a form of social pressure to follow through. When others are aware of what you're trying to achieve, the desire not to disappoint or appear inconsistent can bolster your commitment. In this chapter, he explores the concept of social accountability and its role in habit formation. By leveraging social expectations through the use of accountability partners, group norms, and public declarations, you can enhance the likelihood of sticking with your habits, thus supporting the pursuit of your long-term goals. Chapter 18. The truth about talent, when genes matter and when they don't. Clear explores the role of genes and natural talent in the formation and success of habits. He discusses the interplay between our genetic predispositions and the impact of consistent effort. Clear starts by acknowledging that genes do play a role in our abilities. He explains that everyone is born with a certain set of genes, some of which make us naturally inclined towards certain activities. However, he also emphasizes that talent is not the sole determinant of success, and that genes cannot dictate your destiny. While our genes may influence our interests or natural abilities, it is the consistent effort and the habits we build that ultimately determine our level of skill and success. A person might have a natural talent for music, for instance, but without the habit of regular practice, they won't become a skilled musician. Conversely, someone without that natural inclination, but with a habit of consistent practice, can still become proficient. Clear further discusses the idea of genetic range, the concept that our genes set a range of potential outcomes, and our habits determine where we fall within that range. He uses the analogy of height in basketball. While being tall might be an advantage, it doesn't guarantee success. Players like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant weren't the tallest in the sport, but their work ethic, practice habits, and determination set them apart. He suggests choosing habits that align with your personal inclinations and abilities to make progress smoother and more enjoyable. This isn't about limiting oneself to what comes naturally, but about acknowledging where our natural strengths lie and leveraging those in the habit formation process. To conclude, Chapter 18 provides a nuanced perspective on the relationship between genes, talent, and habit formation. While acknowledging the role of genetic predispositions, Clear underscores the importance of consistent effort and well-designed habits in achieving success and proficiency. Talent might make things easier, but it's the habits that make them possible. Chapter 19. The Goldilocks Rule: How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work. James discusses the importance of maintaining optimal challenge levels in our tasks to stay motivated and engaged. Clear starts the chapter by introducing the Goldilocks Rule, which states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. Much like Goldilocks in the children's story, we're most motivated when the challenge is just right. Clear emphasizes that if a task is too easy, we tend to lose interest over time out of boredom. Conversely, if a task is too hard, we tend to become overwhelmed and give up. However, when a task is perfectly balanced between being slightly challenging yet within our reach, we get into a state of flow, which leads to increased motivation and productivity. This state of flow, a term coined by the psychologist Millie, is described as a state where you are so engrossed in the task at hand that everything else seems to fade away. Time flies and productivity increases. Clear suggests that reaching this state of flow is key to maintaining long-term motivation in our habits. Clear further explains that the benefits of following the Goldilocks rule aren't just about productivity. They're also about satisfaction and continual growth. By consistently working on tasks at the edge of our abilities, we continue to grow and improve. Moreover, he connects the Goldilocks rule with the concept of immediate satisfaction mentioned in previous chapters. Clear posits that the secret to maintaining long-term habits is to focus on tasks that provide an immediate reward. In conclusion, Chapter 19 introduces the Goldilocks rule as a way to stay motivated in both life and work. By working on tasks that hit the sweet spot, challenging enough to engage but not so hard as to overwhelm, we can find satisfaction, maintain motivation, and continuously improve. It's about finding and staying within the optimal zone of difficulty for continual growth. Chapter 20. The downside of creating good habits. James Clear sheds light on the possible drawbacks of established habits and how automatic behavior can lead to complacency. Clear begins the chapter by emphasizing the great power of habits in shaping our lives. However, he also explains that the automatic nature of habits, which is their greatest strength, can also be a drawback. When a habit becomes automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing, and this can lead to mindless repetition and stagnation. Clear argues that the danger lies in reaching a point where we stop improving because we stop thinking about what we're doing. For example, a tennis player might practice serving for hundreds of hours until it becomes a habit, but if they aren't consciously trying to improve and correct their form, they might simply be reinforcing bad technique. To avoid this pitfall, Clear introduces the concept of reflection and review as a way to stay conscious of our habits and to keep improving. This involves regularly taking a step back to analyze our habits, making necessary adjustments, and setting new goals for continuous improvement. He suggests that a good time to conduct such a review might be at the end of each year, or more frequently depending on your goals and habits. By asking ourselves reflective questions during these sessions, we can uncover useful insights about our progress and decide on future directions. Clear also emphasizes that while habits can start as conscious decisions, over time they become automatic processes. Therefore, it's important to check in periodically and consciously consider which habits serve us and which ones need adjustment. In conclusion, Chapter 20 acknowledges the potential downside of habit formation, the risk of mindless repetition and stagnation. To combat this, Clear introduces the concept of reflection and review, suggesting that conscious analysis and adjustment of our habits are key to ensuring continuous improvement and success. Well, there you have it, folks. Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book that truly provides the blueprint for creating good habits, breaking bad ones, and mastering the tiny behaviors that steer our lives. We've delved into how tiny changes can indeed make a big difference, and that the secret to remarkable results lies in small, consistent improvements. Remember, every action is a vote for the person you wish to become. Success isn't overnight. It's a slow and steady journey that's built upon the compounding effect of your habits. We hope you found our review and summary of Atomic Habits enlightening. As you navigate your own journey of habit formation and personal development, may the principles and strategies we've explored guide you towards achieving your goals. So what tiny change will you implement in your life today? What habit will you shape to steer you towards your desired identity? We would love to hear your thoughts and plans in the comments section below. And if you found this review helpful, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful book reviews and summaries. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep making those atomic changes.